situation set up, but it took a lot longer than I expected it to.
No worries. Yeah, we were kind of wondering why we're getting the view like we're gonna catch a predator. Are you
uh,
the predator or Chris Hansen?
Do you
oh,
have a case of Zima somewhere in your?
I haven't gotten a phone holder for my tripod, so it's literally just duct taped to the tripod.
Hey,
Nice.
it works. It works.
It works. It works.
Hey, yeah, if
My,
it works, it works.
Not that I'm using this microphone right now, but my microphone is a combination of a tension thing that I bought off the internet and the base of a IKEA lamp
Oh wow.
because the clamp wouldn't fit to my desk because my desk has a beveled edge.
I think
And
when
then I
Johnny and I did our Christmas photos, we used hair ties to attach the phone to the tripod.
Yep.
Oh, that's
There we go. I'm trying to get that light is in such a weird position. Anyways, um,
Yeah, it's kind of washing out you.
yeah, maybe I'll point it down a little bit. But now
Yeah.
I'm tilted. Oh well.
Now you're just in a 90s music video.
Yeah, I'm in a
That's exactly what I was about to say. Holy shit.
Dutch angle. I'm a Batman villain.
Yeah, you have to go all over the top, like
Get him, boys!
yeah.
The camp counselor from that Simpsons episode. Do you know what I'm referring to?
Which one?
It's
Camp Krusty or
it's no, it's their reference. Oh, it's the one where they meet Adam West. He's like, we used to do the Batusi, and then he like flashes back to the Batman 60s show, and he's like fighting this villain called the camp counselor, and he's dressed like a camp counselor, and he's like, get him, boys! And then like the Boy Scout themed henchmen like attack Batman.
Nice. That's when they meet Adam West. That's one of the early seasons.
Yeah, that's like season. I mean, I think it's like season 5 or 6.
Yeah, I haven't seen those in ages.
I rewatch The Simpsons like first few seasons at least once a year, or at least every other year.
Well, shall we?
Sure.
All right.
I guess there's one bit of Marvel news that came out this week. Actually, two bits of Marvel news. Marvel's MODOK. John Hamm is voicing Iron Man.
That's fun.
What?
I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And also Nathan Fillion is to voice Wonder Man.
Wasn't he always? Wasn't
By the
there like
way-
talk that he was gonna play Wonder Man at some point?
Yeah, he's been in and out of discussions for that.
By the way, that sexy animal just turned 50. So happy birthday, Nathan Fillion.
Holy shit.
Huh.
That and wasn't he like our age for Firefly? He was like 30.
Yeah,
To late
Yeah.
30.
because Firefly was 20 years ago.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean that's even worse though. Well, it's not quite 20 years ago. It's still like 18 years ago, but sure.
It's like a meme I saw on Reddit the other day. It's yeah, your brain is telling you what Final Fantasy came out 20 years ago. Oh, I don't know. Must have been one of the NES ones. No, it was
No.
PS2 Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw
not even 10, 11.
Yeah.
I saw an Instagram reel this week from I don't know the actress's name off the top of my head, but it looks like seemingly some random girl. She's like, people always be like, hey, aren't you the 13-year-old girl from 13 going on 30? She's like, yeah. And now I'm almost 30. Like, how old do you feel right now?
I mean, yeah, like the prequels are farther away in time than the OT was when the prequels came out.
The baby from the Nevermind album has babies of his own.
It's turning a really fucking depressing opening of the Getting Off Topic podcast.
So it's funny that you bring up Nathan Fillion because I've been watching a lot of Monk.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, so I never really watched Monk before. I maybe caught like maybe in the entire like 8-year run of the show or 8-season run of the show, I think I saw a total of 2 full episodes of the entire
Yeah,
show.
I always heard it was great, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. It's just like Kojak. Like it's just a fun like mystery show. It's in the style of those like British detective mysteries.
Mhm.
Like they're all hyper episodic. You know, you can watch any of them out of order.
Yeah, there's not
Um,
really a huge overarching plot
no,
to Monk.
the death of his wife is like the only thing,
Yeah.
and then the
Spoiler
fact
alert.
that he's got extreme OCD.
OCD.
Yeah.
Anyways, the reason I brought that up is because the girl in it was in Two Guys, a Girl, in a Pizza Place
Oh wow.
with Nathan Fillion and Ryan Reynolds,
And Ryan Reynolds, yeah.
Jesus.
which I used to watch as a kid, literally a child. And I really enjoyed it because I don't know, I liked Ryan Reynolds and Nathan Fillion, I guess. And then I ended up seeing them later and stuff. And Blink 182 was in an episode. It was great.
Oh my god.
Yep.
And anytime Monk comes up, it always reminds me of my favorite visual gag with the DVD box sets. I don't own them myself, but I've seen the picture of it. So Monk is a severely OCD character, like extremely OCD,
Mhm.
and the DVD box sets have his portrait on the bottom of the individual season boxes, except for one of them. One of them is at the top, and because he's severely OCD, if he would see that himself, he'd be extremely insane.
That's really clever.
Specifically there to bother OCD people.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. Wasn't that a USA show?
Yes.
Yeah.
it was.
One
Yeah.
of the 1,000 USA shows that I never
So
like that or
I
see.
was reading recently that prior to The Walking Dead, Monk had the most watched episode of primetime cable ever,
Wow.
8 million viewers. And then later, The Walking Dead would go on to blow that out of the water, even with its first season.
For some reason, like USA never struck me as like a heavy hitter, like as far as ratings wise. Like it was a channel that I always passed over. The only show that
I
ended up
mean, not for
eventually watching-
our demographic.
Yeah. Out of that
For
era,
boomers, man, like boomers love that shit.
that's true. Yeah. That out of that era around Monk and Suits and whatnot.
Burn Notice and stuff like that.
Burn Notice. That was the only one that I ever watched. I went back and watched.
I wonder why.
Because fucking Bruce Campbell, of course.
Well,
But-
it's funny because the guy who was in Burn Notice, he plays an astronaut in Monk.
Oh wow.
And I'm pretty sure that they probably, because you know how casting directors for those types of networks
Mhm.
work is they usually work for the same production companies, and those production companies usually work with a network. So you end up with people like, for example, Cheers, Frasier, and Star Trek all have the exact same pool of Los Angeles actors.
Mhm.
And you see, and they're literally, the sound stages are across the street from each other. So there's this joke that all Cheers and Frasier's episodes are actually holodeck episodes.
It's official headcanon.
Yeah.
That's a funny story. One of our coworkers actually was a extra on both Cheers and a holodeck episode
Really?
of Star Trek Next Gen.
That's pretty funny. What episode? Do you know?
The Outrageous Okona, I think it was.
Which coworker?
Patrick, he was on the night shift.
He's also a B, well, not even a B list, like
Is it extra?
yeah, but he does like direct to internet films, direct to DVD type films every now and again.
Byron, it was the episode of Next Gen where Data is trying to learn comedy and he enlists a holodeck Joe Piscopo.
Yeah.
And our coworker was just one of the random holodeck audience members laughing.
I really strongly dislike 80s stand-up comedy, so every time I'm not particularly fond of Joe Piscopo either. So every time I watch that episode, I'm just like, oh dear God. Because they're not even aping. That's the thing in that episode. They're not even aping 80s stand-up comedy. They're aping like 50s and 60s stand-up comedy. At least Data is.
Yeah, it was pretty hacky, just I can remember.
One thing I wanted to mention was I don't know if you guys watch this show, but I was sad to see the final episode of Superstore this week.
I heard that was ending.
Superstore is a big favorite of mine. I started watching it in the first season and I absolutely love it. I think the cast is great. I think the writing is really good, and the stories that they've managed to put together about like the the horrific capitalistic quagmire that is big box stores. It's just like they just served the they did a good job representing the industry really well. And if anybody has worked in one of those types of stores, I mean, even grocery stores are sort of, it's, it's easy to understand their plight. And the show came to an end this week, and I'm really sad.
That show, like, I remember when it was first airing and it looked really good, but it seems like a show that probably wasn't going to be around for very long, so I hadn't watched
it. Went 6 seasons.
Yeah, and but now it's I mean, it is almost over, so now I can just go back and binge the whole thing.
I mean, it's all over now. It's done.
That's insane.
Yeah, strongly recommended. It's like one of those shows that you can binge and you will absolutely, it'll be a favorite by the end.
We'll add it to the list. There were 2 other farewells we had to bid this past week. Pretty sad ones. Number 1, George Siegel passed away.
Oh yeah. From SNL.
And billions of other things.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I knew him from was TV Funhouse.
Oh, okay.
Shorts.
Yeah, George Siegel from the first thing I remember him from was Just Shoot Me as the
owner
owner of the magazine, with David Spade and them. But he's most beloved now from the Goldbergs for the last 8 seasons. I think they're in now. I think this was the final season actually. But I think they aired his final.
I think I'm mixing.
Yes, you're mixing up.
Him up. Yeah.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
He's a comedy actor from the 70s, 80s.
No, I know who he is now. Just twisted it up in my mind.
Yeah, 34 to 2021. He was 87 years old, and sadly, it was just complications from a bypass surgery.
That sucks.
Yeah.
It's always like really disappointing to hear that like somebody dies in the hospital. You know?
You go in to get something fixed, and then
and then you die. Yeah.
What was it? Joan Rivers a few years back. It was like some sort of vocal cord surgery or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're still in like litigation over that too. I think her estate is still suing the hospital over that one.
Jeez. But yeah, I mean, 87, good long run, but still, it sucks, dude. Yeah. But cheers to George Siegel, and then. Just a few days after that, Jessica
Walters.
Yeah. Or
I have to say, like,
matriarch of the blues.
She's so incredible in Arrested Development. Like, she. I mean, I can't even imagine that show without her. Like, she is so like.
Well, that whole cast, like, each one complements everything else. So if you just remove one of those people, that show is not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was just. Like so perfect for that role.
Jessica Walter, 80 years old. Passed
I'll
away.
always remember her as as Mallory Archer. Like that performance is fucking brilliant. Just
to this day, I've only seen a handful of Archer episodes, but I mean, I hear her as Lucille Bluth. I hear her voice, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's Lucille.
It's essentially the same character, really.
Yeah. Pretty much.
It's interesting. It's interesting how like various people take to various different like animated comedies, because I've never particularly been I've seen a lot of Archer. I haven't ever really particularly liked it. But there are other shows that are similar in its like Venture Brothers, which I think is incredible and brilliant. And they're very similar in like tone, I guess.
I remember.
Uh,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go. It's fine.
The first couple times I tried to I sat down. I was like, okay, I watched like the pilot of Archer, maybe one or two more. I maybe got 1, 2, 3 episodes in, and then just put it down for other stuff. And I think I watched that first episode a couple times throughout the years. Like I was like, oh yeah, I should finally go back and start watching Archer because everybody's like jizzes over it. It's so amazing. And I went back and watched it, and I got the same feeling every time. For some reason, it was just one of those shows where it felt like the volume was cranked up too loud, no matter how low my TV was, and everybody just screams at each other. Like that's their normal speaking voice, is screaming at each other. And after a while, I just couldn't take it. It wasn't like, it was mildly funny to me, but it was just too, I don't know.
You are right though. The default tone when people are talking to each other on that show is screaming at each other.
Yeah. It's like that's I'm not against that. Like it's funny when people are bickering with each other, but it felt like that was it. Like it was always at 11 and never anything else. And it just, after a while, I had to just stop watching it. But.
And the other funny thing is, I love the cast. Like every single person in the cast, I think is fantastic. But I've never I don't think I've once been like, wow, that was an amazing episode of Archer. But I understand why people like it though.
I don't think there is an amazing episode of Archer. I think it's just consistently good, not consistently great, but consistently good.
I can agree with that.
Maybe it leveled out after. Maybe if I kept watching it, maybe it was like
and it's
get over that season 1 early hump, and they find the characters and they find the right tone. Because
every
time I caught like random bits, I'm flipping channels and maybe I'll catch 10 minutes of something and it's in the middle of the episode. I have no idea what's going on, but I do laugh. I'm like, oh, okay, this is good. I do have to go back and watch this sometime.
Yeah.
Season 1 sets up a lot of running gags. It sets up a lot of the character jokes and all of that stuff. So once you get through season 1, and there's like 9 or 10 seasons of it, it definitely is much, much better.
All right. Duly noted. But yeah. That I have been seeing everybody freaking out over Invincible, which just
Invincible is great. I've only seen the first episode thus far because I want to give it its time, because Invincible is one of my all-time favorite comic books of all-time favorite comic books.
And that's a comic that I've always told myself I have to go back and read, and I still haven't. No, we don't have Invincible.
It's the type of thing that I've reread the first 30 issues. I can't even tell you how many times. I did fall pretty far behind a few years ago. There was just a period of time where I was not collecting comics, and it's really easy, especially because Kirkman is pretty consistent about putting his titles out on time. So or at least Invincible he is.
Invincible was Kirkman.
Yeah, it started around the same time that Walking Dead did. And it's interesting because when I first started reading Invincible, I liked Invincible more. And then I started reading Walking Dead, and I was like, oh yeah, Walking Dead is good. But then over time, it sort of flipped. And I enjoyed Walking Dead more until the show started. Kirkman is just one of those comic creators that he just keeps going and going and going. That dude is a train.
Yeah, he churns the fuck out of content.
Yeah, I mean, holy shit. And it's consistently good. I mean, and compare that to Hellboy or Spawn, or where there are entire years worth of Spawn comics that are just not even barely worth reading. But Robert Kirkman's stuff is almost always good, always at least entertaining, but at his highs and lows is incredible. Spawn and Hellboy and stuff. I think it also helps that compared to other super long running stories, Kirkman almost always has a long-term goal for where the story is going. He's not just randomly doing shit that he's very much like Brian K. Vaughan in that way, in that he's got a story specifically planned out, and sometimes he may stretch that out a bit, and it may take longer to get to the story that he's got, but he does have a specific end goal in mind.
Yeah, I still remember back in the day after Well, once Walking Dead the show took off, and he was getting hammered with interviews left and right, and everybody always brought up if Rick would lose his hand in the show like he did in
Yeah,
the comic,
and
and
it never
Kirkman was
happened.
like, fuck no, like that was like
Yeah.
the biggest mistake I ever did. It was such a pain in the ass to figure out, like, oh shit, he only has one hand, right? What can he do in the comic now? Like, right around. So he said, like, no, this is the perfect opportunity to
Fix that mistake.
yeah, to fix that
Well,
mistake.
and they also found plenty of ways to have other characters take on that specific trait.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a couple of them.
Damn
Real
it.
quick to go back to Invincible. So this is so something I noticed. It's an hour-long animated TV show. I don't think I've ever seen an hour-long
Animated show.
animated show.
No.
That wasn't like a a like a block of episodes
Mm.
or like like
A
Looney
mini
Tunes
series.
or a mini series or something, or anime are often hour long, but American animation is almost never longer than 22 minutes.
So what we're looking at is essentially an hour long drama, but
Mind you, it's 44
action.
minutes. It's not actually, but I
Right,
was
it's
thinking
easier.
about it today, or I was thinking about it a couple days ago, and I literally cannot think of anything, any American animated show that is longer, that is 44 minutes.
Yeah, I really can't. Oh, I'm gonna have to add this one to the list.
I mean,
I think I read
Ro-
Stephen Yun is the
yeah, the cast in Invincible. Somebody bring up the cast and just read it off. It's incredible.
Hey Byron, tell us about that cast.
I got it.
Yeah. There's a lot of Walking Dead alums, which is not a surprise.
Stephen Yun, J.K. Simmons, Seth Rogen, Mark Hamill, Zazie Beetz, Gillian Jacobs, Sandra Oh, Walton Goggins, holy shit, Jason Mantzoukas, yes, who else? Zachary Quinto,
Yep.
Kari Payton of Walking Dead, Kevin Michael Richardson, Mae Whitman, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the cast while I was watching. I looked it up on my phone while I was watching the other day, and I was like, "Holy shit, this cast is incredible!"
Oh, Jeffrey Donovan from Burn Notice.
There you go. Yeah.
Sonequa Martin Green, Ezra Miller, Clancy Brown, Jesus Christ, Ross Marquand. Yeah.
Mind you, about 7 of these characters die in the first episode. So.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of stunt casting for the premiere, and then
yeah, I mean the animation is really good. It looks a lot like the comic. It's just it seems to be a very I think they're going sort of the Walking Dead way of it, is that it's going to be a very faithful adaptation in certain ways, but then to keep the audience on their toes, he's going to mix stuff up, which honestly is, I think, the best way to do an adaptation of a beloved medium, is to throw, unless it's something like the Lord of the Rings where you sort of want to be as faithful as you can.
Mm-hmm.
With comics fans, I think,
and you don't have to go full Attack on Titan page for page.
Yeah, absolutely. The other interesting thing is that there's still a planned film adaptation of
really?
Invincible coming, and this hasn't taken its place. The film adaptation is still in pre-production, and supposedly it's got like a bidding war on it, or the bidding war is over, but like it's happening. It's not in development hell.
All right. Interesting. We'll have to see. I wonder, with Invincible breaking new ground with or breaking new ground with, like you said, like an hour long, or roughly 45-minute whatever animated show, if this works like gangbusters, I wonder if we'll see more comic adaptations like this in animated form, as opposed to the struggle of trying to bring a live adaptation like the troubled Why the Last Man show.
I mean, I would expect that anything that is by Image or Skybound that's probably going to be the case. Like if
Fair
they like Battle Pope or Science Dog or any of the because that's the other thing is that Invincible sort of set up like a larger universe and crosses over into the rest of the Image universe. So like Savage Dragon is hanging around in the Invincible universe. So I would definitely say that it's a definitely a backdoor for Image stuff.
Mhm.
Well,
Alright.
good. I might get my birthright animation.
Ooh, be cool. Did y'all catch that trailer for Bird Girl?
I
The
did, yeah.
Harvey Birdman
Oh
spinoff?
man, I loved Harvey Birdman back in the day. So like I saw that trailer and I was like, oh shit, yeah.
I only ever saw that's another one I only ever saw bits and pieces of Harvey Birdman, but whenever it was on, I laughed. But yeah, that is premiering pretty soon, actually, April 4th.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's like next week.
yeah,
Cool. I didn't realize it was so close.
yeah, me either.
They kept that one under their hat.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't hear anything about it whatsoever until just that trailer dropped a couple days ago. Well, one that has been coming for a long time and in limbo, Marvel and Disney have finally decided to release Black Widow with doing the joint theater and digital release with Disney Plus's whole premium rental.
Honestly, I feel like they should have just done this. They should have done this like 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But not only that, but they also pushed it back in another month or two. So
Yeah,
instead
it's
of coming out in May, it's coming out in what, late June?
July 9th.
July 9th.
Yeah.
Wonder why they're waiting so long to release it.
I don't know.
They want movie theaters to fully open everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do the split release. Period.
Yeah.
They did not want to do it. I mean, I understand why, but the reason why I think they should have just done it months ago is because at this point in the timeline, Black Widow takes place so long ago.
Mhm.
Like it takes place before Infinity War,
Yeah.
which in the timeline is like 7 years ago.
Mhm.
Which I mean, they've done like prequel-esque. I mean, Guardians 2 supposedly took place
It's like 6 months
in
after Guardians 1.
2013. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see. It'd be nice to finally get it out there, but yeah, like you said, I don't get why they didn't just do this like practically a year ago. But whatever. Wish they would just pull a Warner Brothers and say like, "Hey, just subscribe to HBO Max, bro. You get everything."
Well, did you hear about that?
What?
That's officially coming to an end.
So that is not going to be the case in 2022.
Oh, so they're just for 2021. They're gonna have all their.
There's going to be a 45-day theater window.
Oh, okay.
Which 45 days that's only a month and a half.
Is
Yeah,
it because they're losing money that way with these big releases, or?
It's because all of the directors literally rose up in revolt and just universally shit on the idea.
Well, and also because the theater industry, the theater industry has a lot of clout over their relationships with theaters because the studios do actually make a lot of money exhibiting their films in theaters. Like they do actually make way more money that way. But it's also more convenient for them to have as much control over exactly how the movie is released as possible. So if they cut out movie theaters, then they can release the movie now online and people will watch it. And they have immediate exact control over how it gets released, where the theaters, have a lobby and throw their weight around by saying like, hey, if you force us to show this movie, we're not going to show any of your movies, etc.
Like the famous story of Disney and Quentin Tarantino having a battle over I think it was the the second of the sequel films. Quentin Tarantino had reserved the big IMAX or the big 85 millimeter theater in LA for his
For Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight. And Disney had wanted that for Star Wars, and they had told the theater company, okay, fine. If you give him this, even though you've already signed a contract, if you don't cancel that contract, not only will you not get Star Wars, but you will not see a single Disney movie from here on out.
Oh,
So they
shit.
had, so
Yeah.
they had to cancel Quentin Tarantino's
And that's
contract.
serious. That's serious shit. Like, I mean, and that's exactly the problem here is that Disney has especially since they own so many fucking studios now, they have the ability to blacklist entire theater chains if they don't do exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Wasn't there
Because if you don't have a Fox or Disney movie for an entire summer, that's a fucking significant portion of revenue that you're missing out on.
Yeah.
I think Disney controls something like 35 or 45% of all major studios
it's like
now.
35% of the entire film industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Tony?
On that note, Regal theaters will be opening back up
What?
next month. Yeah,
Nice.
April.
I thought they were like bankrupt.
No, they
Like
just
closing.
shut down operations completely when the pandemic
Oh,
started.
they came real close a few times.
All
Yeah.
all
They
the major chains came
real
real
fucking
close.
close.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's the thing: is that like, and I'm definitely someone. I worked in movie theaters for a really long time as an adult, and so I understand that industry pretty well. And I have an affinity for it. I love the movie. I love the theater experience, but it's not perfect. I get that. But like I was sort of when HBO Max decided to do their like streaming thing, I was like, holy fuck. If they continue to do this, they could literally bankrupt the theaters.
Yeah.
But theaters are resilient. They've been through a lot of shit, and people understand the power of the theater experience. And I think what you can see is the movies that have come out over like some of them have done well, but most of them have not done very well on streaming, and not even come close to hitting the same metrics that they would if they're in the theater. And so that has scared the streaming services away from going hardcore into that model because they just can't make the same type of money.
Look at Milan. Well, aside from the fact that it was a garbage movie, I haven't seen it myself, but
It still would have made $250 million domestic if
Easily.
it had been in the theaters.
Easily.
Minimum. Like it would have been a failure at $250 million domestic, and I think it made like 180 million from the downloads.
Yeah.
It probably would have done close to 500 million if domestic. It wouldn't have done $1 billion, not even close. But
Yeah, there will always be no matter what happens, there will always be a market for, theaters. People want to go to, have that experience. Now, whenever these industry shakeups happen, you may see the giants of these industries, like, the AMCs and Regals, like they may go through some hard times, just like Meg experienced in the whole like book industry, brick and mortar bookstores, and Borders falling, and Barnes and Noble like just barely scraping by for a long time, and
they
now
held
finally
on with their nails
coming back. Yeah, I mean, you can equate that experience in any sort of industry shakeup in lots of places. I think theater industry is no different. You're going to see maybe one of the big boys just collapse or just shrink down quite a bit out of sheer necessity to survive. And then maybe the rise of smaller little indie movie houses or something.
honestly,
We've had
the
this
thing
whole
is I actually think it's the opposite. I think we're going to see the death of smaller indie houses, and the big box theaters are the only ones that are going to be able to survive.
I agree with Byron on this. The indie theaters, they won't have the major support from capital investment that could prop them up as these major theaters do.
Especially after the pandemic, like a lot of those theaters, the capital that they were sitting on pretty much just got completely wiped out from under them. So I would expect that if we don't see major, I'm talking like epic level cinema, like butts in seats over the next 6 to 9 months, that next January we're going to see a flood of independent theaters closing.
Mm. I did enjoy the seeing the news about the resurgence of drive-ins during the whole pandemic, but I wonder how much.
That's rad. Honestly, like drive-ins are an amazing experience. If you've never been to a drive-in, it is. I mean, there's nothing like it, really. Mind you, go ahead.
Surprisingly, I think that'll actually come back and stay
Yes.
because of people's I want to say it, selfish natures. You're in your own car. That means you're in your own world. That means you can do whatever the fuck you want and not have to worry about bugging other people.
You can smoke a blunt. You can like
It's
jerk
be on
off.
your
You can
phone
jerk
the
off
entire-
your car mate. Like you can do whatever you want. You know.
It's almost the perfect merge of that streaming on demand service from your home, but also
You can fucking Instagram the whole time and not bother anybody. You know.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's actually part of the reason why I'm like desperate to. I actually did go see a movie during the pandemic. Um, one of our local indie houses, they had like extreme measures where they were at 10% capacity. So
Wow.
only 20 people were allowed in the theater at a time, and you had to be 15 feet away from each other. And you had to wear masks the whole time, and you couldn't eat or drink. I went and saw Blade Runner, and mainly because like I was worried that theater was going to close, and I wanted to give them my money. And I had fun, but I was like paranoid the whole time. And it was also during the least bad part of the pandemic, back like in June or whatever. But what I realized is that like watching movies at home is just not the same. It is just not the same. When I'm at the theater, I pay fucking attention. I don't look at my phone. I am if I'm sitting next to someone who's on their phone, I'm annoyed the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm also someone like and I'm sure anybody who is a friend or former romantic partner of mine who's listening to this will definitely agree with me that if you're not paying attention while you're watching a movie with me, I get very, very, very annoyed.
Maybe I'm the exception to everything, because as much as I do enjoy going to the theater to see the brand new hero movie or whatever the fuck, I genuinely also enjoy watching. I'm happy to wait to watch it in my own home, because we have the setup where we have surround sound. Our TV is like the size of our wall. So, you know, in this tiny apartment, it's a rather large TV. We have the backlighting, and I can pause it so I can use the bathroom and not miss it.
But do you pay attention to the movie?
I do, because
see that's a huge thing though, because like not everybody does that.
No, we make it like a thing where we're going to sit and watch this film and not be distracted. And the only times that we may pause the film to do a distracting thing is to look something up in pertaining to the film, or because we need to use the restroom, or we need to go get like a food or drink item.
Yeah,
I feel like most people at this point, it's like that line from The Big Lebowski. It's like a child walking into the middle of a movie and they're like, what happened? I don't know what happened. Well, if you've been paying attention to the fucking movie, you'd understand what was happening.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
You're out of your element.
Yeah, we have a weird. No, I totally understand the effect that you're talking about. And like you, I do get kind of miffed if I'm watching a movie with somebody and they're fucking around on their phone or something. Meg and I have this weird sort of like we go into theater mode when we're sitting down to watch a
Yes.
movie specifically. If it's a
I do
random
too.
like
I
a
do too.
TV show or something, then
Yeah.
we're
No,
more
fair.
laxed about it and we might
Yeah, whatever. TV, I don't give.
but if we're turning on the sound bar, we're dimming the lights, we're in theater mode for like it's movie time.
And to me,
I-
like that's
I feel like that is not a very common thing.
I guess
nowadays.
not, because for me, a lot of times I even prefer the at-home experience than a theater, because within the last few years, it didn't matter what time of day I went, whether it was a weekday or a weekend or 3 p.m. or 8 o'clock at night, there was always somebody in that theater that was pissing me off because they were talking, eating on their fucking phone, like
Yeah, we had
something that just pissed me off. And it's like, I paid $15 to see this movie, plus whatever concession stand things that I ate.
Yeah,
I
we had a
remember
lot of
when we
shitty
had
experiences in a row.
Yeah.
I remember when we were doing our regular movie thing, like once a week, and we had the worst fucking luck with getting kids and assholes in our movies.
Yeah, remember that
was
asshole behind us in
Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Todd was about to fight the dude.
I almost literally punched a dude in a theater.
So I have to mention that I'm sort of lucky because Portland has the best movie culture that I've ever experienced in my life. This city is obsessed with movies. We have one of the best movie theaters in the country, the Hollywood Theater. It's actually Quentin Tarantino's favorite movie theater in the country. It's sort of like Alamo Drafthouse in that it's actually a non-profit restored 1950s era movie theater.
Oh shit.
With a true actual 70 millimeter projector.
Oh wow.
There you go, Meg. We got to move to Portland.
Yeah, I've just been so jaded by the theater experience in the last few years that
you can get a beer in almost every single movie theater in Portland. Almost. There's only, but like the ones that don't specifically don't have it because it's like a kids theater or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and also the best, like the most polite. So even despite the fact that you can like eat and drink food in the theater, almost everyone is super polite. There are certain theaters that are like rowdier than others, and they have an expectation of that just because that's the place you're going. But for the most part, Portland has, I mean, you can see literally, I mean, probably any movie in the country. If there's a movie playing in the United States, it's probably playing in Portland.
All right.
Except for a couple months out of the year, which is like New York and LA.
All right. I got a couple more quick little headlines, and then we should probably get on to Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
our Lethal Weapon buddy cop comedy starring Bucky and Sam. But Todd mentioned to me earlier this week, actually I was on shift and he pings me. He's like, "Hey man, congrats on the new Flash movie." Because apparently my doppelganger, Ron Livingston, has replaced Billy Crudup as Barry Allen's dad in
really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's better casting than Billy Crudup. I mean, I like Billy Crudup, but like, I don't know.
They said it was just scheduling conflicts, apparently.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, so Ron Livingston will be.
I've always loved Ron Livingston. I feel like
you do no wrong with him.
His agent is just like always consistently getting him good work.
Yeah.
He was in that show Search Party for a little bit. He had his own astronaut show once upon a time.
The two shows the two things that he is iconic for, though, is both Office Space and then completely on the other side is the Band of Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I mean, I always remember him from Jon Favreau, Swingers. How do I tell my parents that I'm playing Goofy?
Fuck, I've seen that movie like 5 times and I don't even remember him in that.
Oh, it's been a decade plus since I've seen Swingers. I didn't remember him in that at all.
Yeah, he plays the other friend from Back Home.
Okay.
And he's also an actor, and he's complaining about how like he's playing Goofy at Disneyland.
Jeez. Wow. Well, another superhero news and more DC news, actually. They went ahead and put a release date for Black Adam. I guess The Rock is tired of being in limbo on that.
Well, he's a busy guy. I mean, like, you got to lock that shit down.
Yeah, he makes like fucking 50 movies a year, for God's sake.
Didn't they release the cast for the villain or something in that film too?
Yeah, they released pretty much the entire cast
Well,
list.
Well, there's
Oh,
Black
here's-
Adam, and then there's the Shazam sequel, which is its own separate
Is
thing.
he being introduced in Shazam too?
I'm not sure, but Helen Mirren is going to be a big bad in the Shazam 2
Ooh,
Pierce Brosnan is playing the big bad in
in Black Adam.
yeah,
Okay.
he's playing
He's
Dr.
playing
Fate.
Dr. Fate. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so he's gonna be a villain. They're doing a villainous version.
Oh, nope, hero Dr.
Okay,
Fate.
I was like, that doesn't make sense.
But it says hero,
Well, he's like an anti-hero.
yeah, hero opposite Dwayne Johnson's character. So is
Okay.
Dwayne Johnson's character sort of villainish or anti-hero?
Yes. Yeah, Black Adam is like technically he's a villain who
Okay.
becomes like an anti-hero.
Anti-hero, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Helen Mirren closed a deal to play Hespera, daughter of Atlas, in Shazam: Fury of the Gods. All right. Zachary Levi coming back, of course.
I was wondering which DC or Marvel would do more with the pantheon of gods first.
Well, looks like. Well,
because I mean,
they-
I guess Wonder Woman has already started it a little.
one
bit.
is doing Norse and the other is doing like Greek and Roman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Greek and Roman also exist in the Marvel universe as well.
Yeah, I mean they both exist in both.
Yeah. Well, speaking of giant sprawling universes, back in TV land, apparently HBO just made a massive, like absurdly massive deal with George R. Martin.
Oh, for like 5 years.
5
of
years
news stories.
exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying it was supposedly an 8-figure deal they closed.
Holy shit.
So he is never finishing the last 2 books.
I was
That's just
literally
not gonna
ask
fucking
that.
happen.
Is that man ever gonna finish that shit?
Probably
No,
not.
no, he's not gonna finish.
He's gonna die before they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not gonna finish Winds of Winter, and he's definitely not even gonna start on Dream of Spring.
Yeah, they already announced a prequel series, House of the Dragon, and then there was like 5 projects in development in that whole universe that they're.
Well, not only that, but like he's been focused mostly on his wild card stuff, and all of that is. I think he's gonna try to get all of that adapted for HBO.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear about Comic-Con in November?
No.
So Comic-Con is canceled for this year in the summer, but they're doing a smaller mini Comic-Con Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, no, that's
What?
Yeah.
No.
That sounds like a
Who thought
disaster
that
waiting
was
to happen.
Well, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense to me because I'm guessing that the San Diego Convention Center was real cheap to book the week of Thanksgiving.
Good point.
Other than that, it's a fucking disastrous idea.
Uh,
Who are they gonna get to show up? Anyways.
people will show up. They're
Oh.
always showing up.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
even
actually-
even if it's just the vendors with giant rows of long boxes.
I might
waiting.
actually be in San Diego in November. So depending on when it falls, if it's during the period of time that I'm there, I might go, but only if it's during that period of time.
That's saying you can
Digital-
even get tickets.
We'll go and we'll go in and we'll be like, man, this is like when we first started going to Comic.
Yeah, it's like a 15th of the size.
Yeah.
Well, that just means that that tickets will sell out in a 15th of a second.
Yeah, in
true.
1 second instead of 5 seconds.
Yeah. Whatever. I don't know. I'm convinced I'm never going to get back in there unless it's something wildly.
Just
Something
be a
wild.
volunteer for 4 hours, and you get the rest
Is
of the day in the
WonderCon in
con.
Anaheim as hard to get into?
No.
No, God, no. It's easy.
It still sells out, but it doesn't sell out as quick. And
Like, you can
usually
wait,
the
like,
tickets.
a week or two to
Okay.
get tickets, and you'll be
The only
alright.
thing that sells out instantly is the whole passes, the weekend passes.
Oh yeah.
But you
I
can
mean,
still
I'd
get
want to
like
go to. I'd want to go to Disneyland while I'm there anyway. So.
Mhm.
yeah, so get like a Friday or a Saturday pass, and then go to Disneyland on Sunday or something like that.
There you go. Yeah.
I actually much prefer WonderCon in terms of going and looking at everything and feeling more comfortable with time to be able to see panels and whatnot. I mean, San Diego Comic-Con, I feel like is more of just the nostalgia of like, oh, we used to do this every year and we haven't in a while, so let's try and go again. But I know I'm not going to be able to see shit. I know I'm not going to want to buy shit. You know, it's I'm going just because I used to go, whereas WonderCon I'm there to see things that I haven't seen before.
WonderCon, I think, is so much better for people watching too.
It is,
Like my
yeah.
favorite thing about WonderCon is just hanging out at the fountain and people watching for fucking hours.
Oh
Because
yeah,
there's
we're all
so
the-
many cosplayers, there's so many things that
And
walk
there's
by.
so much going on in front of the convention just as much as there is outside
Yeah,
anymore.
and like the actors and the guests actually come out and walk around out there too. Like Daryl from The Walking Dead, met him.
Yeah,
met
no,
a-
we saw him last.
we met a bunch of people from G4. I met Jessica Chobot. I met the guy that Chris Gore. Uh, who else? A couple other people from Attack of the Show. Just people hanging out in front of
Yeah.
WonderCon.
I feel like WonderCon is a better experience in terms of going to a comic book convention, whereas San Diego Comic-Con, you go just for the bragging rights at this point.
Like I actually got in.
Yeah.
You go for the bragging rights and the exclusives that you can sell on eBay later.
Yeah.
Good
Todd,
luck finding them though.
Todd, you just reminded me. G4, so you know they're ramping up their shit on social media and everything because they're coming back. The G4 account on Instagram the other day, I scrolled past it and they just made a random post saying, tell us your favorite thing about G4, your fondest memory or cast member or show or whatever the fuck. So people all across the board are saying all this different stuff. X-Play. There was a lot of just AOTS, Attack of the Show. I decided to comment on I answered genuinely my favorite thing or favorite memory when they knew they were canceled or they were about to be canceled.
Oh, I know what this one is.
And Matt Myra threw a bunch of dicks on live air.
His buyer's guide.
Yeah, during his holiday gaming buyer's guide, he just drew a bunch of dicks on the ads, and John Barrow hosting nearly pissed himself.
Oh god, that was the
fucking thing ever.
That was the best moment on that show ever. Not
Yeah.
only that, but John Barrowman, every time he was on that fucking show was amazing. Why? How did they get him to come to that and actually host a number of times?
Those are some of the best episodes was in their final days because they knew they were
Don't give a shit anymore.
yeah, they knew they weren't going to be saved, so they're like, fuck it. Like we're just going to do whatever we want. It's good times. Yeah.
I remember John Barrowman hosted one of their San Diego Comic-Con episodes, and that was just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Just him on the Comic-Con floor chatting with random fanboys and fangirls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Byron, I saw this earlier. Yeah. New Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the new Resident
I'm pretty stoked, honestly, because I really don't like the Resident Evil movies.
You don't like those cinematic masterpieces?
No, even when I was like, even when I was like 14 and I saw the first one in theaters with, God, I can't even remember who I went with. I think it was Eric and somebody. Oh wait,
I remember I actually won tickets to that off a radio station giveaway off to the second movie. And I refused to go because I hated the first one so much because it was god awful crap.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, it was fun to watch, but like after it was over, I was just like, that was stupid. That wasn't scary at all.
Yeah. I liked I liked the opening bits to the third one because it was all Mad Max apocalyptic.
Yeah.
But that was
I mean, I think I only saw the first two, and then after that, I was just like, I do not fucking care.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited that they're going to do a modern adaptation because I feel like it's. I also recently read about the original movie was almost directed by George Romero.
Mm. Oh, really?
Yeah, like he was working on a treatment. And like it had already been publicly announced that he was going to direct it.
Right.
In fact, you can find his finished screenplay online.
All right. Before we go any further, I realized we didn't even actually say it for the podcast listeners. We're looking at this article right now. It's officially a Resident Evil reboot movie, which I think we've discussed in previous episodes. But the news is that it's officially titled Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, and it's specifically going to be a faithful origin story to the first game. It seems to be, actually, it says will adapt the first two games in the franchise. Oh man,
as long as there's
I don't
like
that. I don't like that.
As long as there's not a
not
creepy
like
zombie fucking dog that jumps out of you in the first 5 minutes of the damn thing.
Oh, make it happen. And I need Leon. My badass cop.
See, I don't like that they're gonna do I don't like that they're gonna do both games in one movie. Because they both they each deserve their own movie.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll find a way to blend the two together. Maybe Leon's dealing with shit.
Garbage.
Yeah, maybe Leon's dealing with shit at the police station. At the same time, there's another group dealing with the shit at the mansion, and they eventually, cross paths and wackiness ensues.
Yeah. So, speaking of other new things, did we see the Suicide Squad trailer?
Yes.
Yeah. King Shark, man.
Although he has some big shoes to fill.
Yeah, Ron Funches did a great job.
Ron Funches, yeah.
Sly Stallone is never gonna live up to that though. Like he's gonna grunt and he's gonna like make random noises, but that's about the limit of his acting range.
Oh shit, that is him.
Yeah, that's Stallone.
Oh my god, I didn't even know that. Wow. But yeah, it looks fun. It looks exactly as I expected. Zany fun. Peter Capaldi, who is he playing? He's got like I'm guessing some sort of psychic or such. He's got like the bald head with all the probes coming off of it.
Yeah, so I mean that's the whole
thing.
That
was Capaldi. I knew that guy looked familiar.
That's the whole thing with James Gunn's Suicide Squad is that he like very intentionally used as many of the most obscure characters as he could so that he can kill them all.
I think
like his condition, the tagline, don't get attached.
Yeah, exactly.
His condition for doing this movie was I can kill anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably why they didn't bring back Deadshot.
No. Wait, I thought Idris Elba was
No, he's playing a new character now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He originally was cast as Deadshot, but then he decided after the fact to make him a different character.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that looks like fun.
Who's Fillion playing? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
It's something absurd.
I'm curious who Flula is playing.
Oh yeah, we didn't see him in the trailer. Yeah. I don't think.
I was a little disappointed. I was like, "Where's Flula?"
Fillion is playing TDK. Don't know who that character is.
TDK.
Huh. Interesting. Okay. I don't know.
All right. All right.
That's obscure enough for even me. Like I don't even know that.
It looks like stupid fun.
Uh-huh.
Even more so than the first one.
Hey, there's gonna be a giant sentient starfish in it, so.
Who's to say they also didn't just make up like these characters just for the film? Like they don't exist anywhere else in comic book lore.
Oh, there's
Yeah,
plenty
but
of
why?
like
When you
D-list.
have so many millions of characters at your disposal that you can
there's
just blow up on a whim.
there's
True.
tons
Yeah,
of
both.
D-list villains that they can use.
All right. Yeah.
I
but
wonder if I
that's-
wonder if we'll ever get a Thunderbolts movie. Do you guys know what Thunderbolts are? Thunderbolts in Marvel Comics are like sort of an iteration of the Suicide Squad sort of idea, in that they're villains who work for the government and go on like top secret missions. But in Marvel Comics, originally in their very first run back in the 90s, um, Baron Zemo, he introduced the Baron Zemo leads the Thunderbolts, but at the time, all of the Thunderbolts pretended to be other characters and new heroes. So they were fake heroes, and then at the end of the first issue, they revealed themselves to actually all be villains.
Huh.
Yeah, real good. That first run on Thunderbolts is fantastic.
All right.
And Zemo stays around all the way up through Civil War. So recently, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's what,
Yeah,
8, 9
I
years
mean,
old now
Zemo's
at this
even in
point.
the like modern. He's in the current Thunderbolt. Well, the Thunderbolt title from like 2017 that I'm reading. So.
Well, speaking of Zemo, I guess we should
Perfect.
probably get
Yeah.
into Falcon Winter Soldier. Actually,
Yeah.
pause one moment because I had one tiny little bit, one last headline circling all the way back around to animation.
Mhm.
I got wind apparently that Mike Judge has been working to revive King of the Hill.
Yeah, 15 years
That's
later,
rad.
and it's gonna focus around Bobby.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great.
Honestly, I think I started binging King of the Hill at the beginning of the pandemic. And I really got to the point where I started to appreciate it on like a level I never had before. King of the Hill is fucking incredible.
Oh, I
It's
love that
amazing.
show.
It's amazing. I did not ever, I mean, I had enjoyed it in the past, but I didn't like really truly understand it until recently.
Yeah.
With your adult
It's
eyes.
great. It's great.
Yeah. That's when I need to go back. Is it streaming where is it streaming?
It's on Hulu now.
On
Yeah,
Hulu?
it-
Okay.
I don't think King of the Hill really hits you until you're a middle-aged man.
Well, it's just like the jokes were just a little too sophisticated for me to get as a child, because that's when that's when it premiered. I mean, I was like 10 when it's
Yeah, we were all
premiered,
watching
like-
Simpsons. We were watching
Yeah.
Simpsons and getting those jokes, but King of the Hill was flying over everyone's head at the
Yeah.
time.
And it really is. It's a pretty sophisticated show in terms of the type of humor, because there's a lot of irony. There's a lot of like very subtle, very, very subtle jokes. Like there's even stuff that like I was like, wow, I barely got that, and I'm like a grown ass adult.
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the older we get, the more we identify with Dale Gribble.
See, and that's part of the question that I saw. People were talking about this in a Reddit forum, the Return of King of the Hill, and people were the question was, would Dale be a member of QAnon?
Oh, fuck no. Fuck no.
No.
He would think that's a government conspiracy.
Exactly. He would think it was the government conspiracy to get everybody on a watch list, which I mean, it pretty much is.
Oh man. Oh, this would be so fun. I think there was whoever leaked it wasn't Mike Judge, it was somebody involved in it, one of the producers or somebody working on the project kind of let slip in an interview about it that he was saying the Trump administration really made a lot of things relevant again. A lot of discussion that would have.
I definitely watched the episode where it snows in Texas and the entire town turns into fucking Mad Max.
Like
the day that it snowed in Texas, I was like, wait, I know there's an episode for this.
The one snowflake falls on Bobby's head, and he says,
What is this?
And then everybody panics.
Loses their minds.
Yeah,
It's like when
It's
it rains.
great.
Go, Bob, slow the truck down. Just stop. Just stop.
it. Yeah.
I will always remember vividly watching I don't know what season it was, but I believe it was the season finale. And it was a cliffhanger because the whole Megalomart exploded.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
like one of the best episodes.
Like, and that's
and
early.
then,
That's like season 1 or 2, I
I
think.
think it's the end of season 3 actually.
and then I think is it Dale or no, it's Boomhauer who runs to a phone booth and is screaming at 911 saying, "Oh no, dango Megalomart, dango boom blah." It's like, sir, you have to slow down. I can't understand a word you're saying. And he said, "Dang, oh, Megalo." Mark. It's still the same gibberish. He does it really slow.
I mean, so one thing that we know almost guaranteed is not going to happen. Toby Huss is not going to be voicing the neighbors.
What's the story
Neighbor.
behind that? I'm not familiar.
Well, Toby Huss is. Do you remember? Did you watch *Halt and Catch Fire*?
No.
Okay. Did you watch The Adventures of Pete and Pete?
Yes.
Oh, fucking like
The
when it
strongest
first
man in the world.
Oh,
Yeah.
Artie?
Artie
Holy
was
shit.
played by Toby Huss,
Ah,
who is now a well-known actor and voice actor. And he also starred in King of the Hill as Khan, the neighbor.
ah,
Newsom
that's why
phone.
he's not gonna.
Yeah.
gotcha.
So I think it's very, very highly unlikely that Toby Huss returns to voice Khan.
Mhm.
Well, not only that, but you also have no Luann either.
Because
So
she's dead. Yeah.
Oh shit, Brittany Murphy.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh. What about who was
Pamela Adlin's bigger than she was then, though. So
the Redcorns, John Redcorn. Who's he
that's a good
voiced?
question, actually.
Played by Jonathan Joss. Oh, okay. That works.
Is he native?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. He was in Parks and Rec.
I will say, that's the same guy.
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
That's dope.
Uh-huh.
I will say that during my rewatch, anytime Khan was on screen, I was like very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I
Because it's not like a particularly like reasonable performance either.
No, but I have not seen the show in probably 20 years, and just looking at the picture of the character right now, I hear that voice in my head. I'm like, oh dear.
Yeah, it's
very
not,
stereotypical.
It's not good.
Very like,
it's incredibly offensive.
Mhm.
But other than that, that's
I mean-
like really the only super problematic thing that I noticed during the show.
But and then again, it also did introduce people into the fact that there are other Southeast Asian people other than Vietnamese.
That's true.
And they did make a good point of like
Yeah,
pointing that out multiple times.
I agree with you on that one. But I don't know, Khan's pretty bad. Other than Khan, though, the show has held up remarkably well. But I mean, like, it's the Apu problem, you know, like Simpsons is just as like that's just as bad, if not worse.
I mean, I think this one stands out more because the character himself is an awful person.
Yeah, and is very obnoxious in the show. Yeah.
It's less about the brown face, we'll call it, and more about the fact that even though it's a minority character, it's like a terrible person playing a minority character or being in a minority character's shoes.
Gotcha. Oh, but yeah, I'm sure they'll have plenty of opportunity to update it and make it right. But in the meantime, should get to Falcon and the Winter Soldier because they are trying to make the world a better place. But can they get past their bro pain and their that's funny because it almost sounded like propane. But when we're just talking about King of the Hill.
Propane and propane accessories.
Could be the title of the podcast. No, yeah. Can Bucky and Sam get along long enough and resolve their differences to stop Zemo? And well, I mean, they haven't even introduced Zemo yet, except in the last second of this episode.
They're gonna bring him into it just so he can fuck shit up, and they'll have to stop him from fucking shit up.
Yep, pretty much. But yeah, this I enjoyed the hell out of this episode. Meg and
Yeah, I
I
like
were,
this one a lot more than the first one.
yeah, Meg and I
And-
were both kind of surprised, like, wow, we actually kind of like this guy, this the new Cap, John Walker.
Oh, John Walker.
Yeah, he was like so charming up until the last point where he has to do the
Stay out of my way.
"Get out of my way," angry cis white male eyes.
I mean,
a few days after watching it, the first episode, I said that I don't know if I'm sold on this show yet. But the same thing happened to me with WandaVision. So maybe we get more episodes in it, I'll like it more. But even this last episode, it's so forgettable for me. Like, I feel like I've seen this shit over and over and over again. And I don't know, it's just, it doesn't have like that interesting thing about it like Wanda.
I will say that the plot is not really engaging me
Not at all.
in the way that it should, or at least I feel like it could, because it is sticking pretty close to the Winter Soldier formula.
Mhm.
But I do other than the plot stuff, the plot is, I think, the weakest element thus far, but the character stuff that we're getting with Sam and with Bucky is so good.
Oh,
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love the wizard versus sorcerer.
Yeah, that's
like,
great.
Big three.
Great.
The big three, yeah.
Yeah.
Aliens, androids, and
Wizards.
wizards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorcerer's just a wizard without a hat.
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't
And
you
I-
read The Hobbit?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
and you called it. Yeah, Bucky has read The Hobbit.
But I really like what they're doing with specifically, like, I like what they're doing with Sam a lot, especially I like what they're doing with Sam in this episode a lot more. But I still think that I also like Bucky's just so interesting in terms, like, at this point he's been blipped. He's like popped in and out of modern culture for 70 years.
Uh-huh.
That guy has had a life.
Being a brainwashed
Jesus.
assassin, yeah, and that didn't really dawn on me. I mean, of course it did, but we are starting to see more elements of that with the introduction of this Isaiah
Bradley.
Isaiah
Yes.
Bradley and his grandson Elijah Bradley, or his
Yeah.
son Elijah
that
Bradley.
was
I
a
don't know which
very
one.
powerful scene, I think, in terms of talking about like putting a giant spotlight on the racial injustices that are happening in our current day. I mean, have always been around, but they're really like they literally like slapped us in the face with that scene. And I loved it.
So Sam
So
just discovering that there was a
Black
soldier.
super soldier.
yeah, so this storyline, and this is, so I mentioned this in, I think it was the last episode, that I was really hoping that they were going to do this, and I didn't think they were going to do it in the second episode. So I'm really glad they did, because Isaiah Bradley is from this storyline, this comic book that came out in 2004 or 2003 called Red, White, and Black, or Truth, Red, White, and Black. And it was about this how they tested the super soldier serum before Steve got it. Is they tested it on 300 African American soldiers, and all of them except for Isaiah Bradley died.
Jesus.
And he was the only one to successfully live. And then they experimented on him for decades and threw him in prison, and it left him, like, in the comics at least, it left him effectively a vegetable. But not until after they also utilized him in like combat scenarios and etc. And There's a great Hollywood Reporter article about it. I strongly recommend if you want to know anything more about this, because it's this comic alone is worth finding and checking out. Well, the biggest problem with that is that the only way to do that right now is illegally or on Marvel Unlimited, because I was checking to see how much a trade paperback and or an issue of this out of print comic goes for, and a trade paperback goes for almost $500.
Jesus.
So
Christ.
because it's been out of print since 2003, because it came out during the height of the Iraq War. So you know, patriotism and all that.
Yeah.
But it's the comic is like heavily inspired by the Tuskegee experiments, which are, you know, a very real and very fucking horrific history for African American servicemen in this country. And so I mean, the Captain America like lens on telling a story in that is actually the perfect place to do it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. It's and as we were kind of discussing, it's not the overall plot so far of the show may not be as splashy and thrilling as something like WandaVision or more superhero-y in that sense, but this is the perfect, it's great that we have this opportunity in the midst of this giant of the Marvel MCU and this crazy superhero world to tell these smaller but extremely relevant and important stories.
Yeah, and I knew this wasn't going to be as impressive as WandaVision, just because there's so much more interesting, I think, iconography that WandaVision can sort of play with. And the sitcom nature is like inherently, I think, better for television than something like this, because this sort of just is emulating the structure and style of stuff that we've already gotten.
This is a film, basically.
Yeah.
This is a film that's been broken
exactly
up into 6 parts.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say earlier. In terms of like, we've seen this already.
But this is also, and I mentioned this I also post about this type of stuff online all the time and on my Facebook and sometimes my Instagram. But this is exactly what I've always wanted Marvel to do and I think it works for the MCU just as well as it works in the structure that they do comics, is that you tell the big, huge stories in like, so like the way the comics work is that each like comic corner gets its own limited event, like Take Back the Shield or the Clone Conspiracy, that crosses over into the 5 or 6 comics in that corner of the world. And I feel like going forward, that's what the standalone movies are going to be. Like Captain Marvel will have Photon and Captain Marvel and Ms. Marvel all in one movie. And then the shows will break down further into like the weekly series. Like Miss Marvel is getting her own show, and then
that's
every year you're going to get one huge event that brings everybody together.
That's what they wanted to do. That was the original plan for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if Ike Perlmutter wasn't such a fucking prick.
Yeah, man. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, I love the show, but it really was such a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
No, that was exactly the plan. They had said when that show was premiering that we want this to be a showcase to expand the characters. And they never got that opportunity. They never were able to get any of the big names on. They were only able to get.
Do you think it's just because Feige and Perlmutter just fucking hated each other?
Yeah, no, that's
and
exactly
Feige was
the
like,
reason.
I just don't want to work with him.
That's the exact reason.
Yeah. I mean, I hate like Perlmutter myself too, but they could have, if it was like someone other than Feige, they probably could have made it happen, you know?
I don't think so. I think Ike Perlmutter was just such a bag of dicks that it never would have happened.
And it's really amazing that they still have not managed to get rid of him. Like,
I mean, the guy is like embedded himself into. He's got his little dick fingers all up in Disney.
Isn't he like 80 years old or something?
Yeah. I think he's
hate
older
him.
than that, actually. I think he's probably closing in on 90s at this point.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
Wow. Anyway. Yeah, yeah, I'm enjoying it like we already said for the character elements and for, you know, the newer elements of you know, Isaiah and that entire backstory they're bringing into the fold. Fuck, I completely lost my train of thought. God damn it. So we're getting Zemo.
Yeah, I'm excited for Zemo. I like the character. I actually read a number of Thunderbolts comics, so I really hope that. I mean, Marvel and DC copy each other with fucking everything.
Oh yeah,
So I hope we get
they have since the fucking 40s. Like,
yeah. So I hope we get the Marvel Suicide Squad basically.
So what do you guys think of the Flag Smashers? Because like I
Didn't
see what
they-
they're going for.
Didn't they name drop Power Broker?
Yes, they did.
Okay, I
I
thought
didn't
so.
catch that. So they're
And wasn't Power Broker in Daredevil?
Power Broker's been in fucking everything.
No, I mean like the show.
No,
No?
I do not remember Power Broker in there.
Huh. Maybe I'm mixing it up with another character.
We didn't get any super soldiers in Daredevil.
Yeah.
no, we didn't.
Hmm.
So maybe you can explain something to me, because maybe they discussed it and I forgot, or maybe they haven't quite clarified what's going on yet. But the group that we're following,
They're effectively anarchists.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Thus far they've been.
I don't think they're using that term because they want to stay that explicit out of that explicitly political realm.
Yeah.
You know.
But so we've seen them smuggling vaccines and like supplies and whatnot to supposedly to go to refugee camps.
Yeah, so I actually okay, and this was actually a detail that I noticed in this episode that I appreciated, because the Flag Smashers, they want the world to be like it was when there were no countries, because I guess what they're implying is that all the governments of the world collapsed, which makes me think that the world should be in a lot worse shape than it is.
Yeah, you get little bits of like, oh yeah,
like maybe Spider-Man Homecoming like really undersold the devastation that was wrought by the blip, you know?
A little bit.
Well, I mean, you get that at the beginning of
Endgame.
Endgame, where like New York is just a fucking mess. Like there's boats all over in the harbor. There's cars piled up everywhere at Wrigley Field.
Well, okay, so this actually
Or
gets
not Wrigley
into
Field,
this gets into
Mets Field, City Field.
So 50% of the entire population disappeared, right?
Mhm.
There's another comic where that exact same thing happens. Tony.
Which is
Why the Last Man.
Oh shit. Right.
I mean, it's not it's a very specific 50% of the population, but it's still 50% of the population.
Yeah.
And the entire world turns into fucking Mad Max.
Yeah, yeah, everything goes to shit.
Like all of human civilization collapses effectively for a while. And this was actually something that I was talking about when the movie came out, and it's a little bit why the blip has never super worked for me, is because like if you killed 50% of all living organisms on Earth, all human life would go extinct, because all life would go extinct, because you have very specific
eco balances.
Yeah, exactly. Like ecosystems are very carefully balanced, and if you were to remove 50% of all living things on Earth, every single ecosystem in the world would collapse.
I don't think these movies are based on that kind of science.
Well, I mean,
well, that was Thanos' entire reasoning.
Yeah, exactly.
The only way for life to thrive is to scale everything back. So Thanos was flawed in his logic because he didn't take into the balance of the delicate balance of certain ecosystems.
So
Okay.
so that was something that I appreciated in this episode was when I think it was Sam. Somebody said like, oh, they want to bring the world back to the way it was with no nations or something. And I think Sam said, and what's wrong with that?
Yeah, that's what I've been kind of thinking in the back of my head this whole time. I'm like, so these are the bad guys? Like,
And I do think it's so what they're doing is I mean, they are pretty explicitly the villains at this point, but it seems like there are some people on the writing staff who are like, well, maybe that's not a bad thing, like, you know,
I I think they're not trying to be villains themselves, but they are being used by somebody else who is making them villainous.
yeah,
manipulated.
and that makes it much more interesting that way, as opposed to just
Yeah,
having
because there's no way that a
villain.
faceless violent mob could ever be manipulated by like shadowy forces.
Not at all.
That's impossible. There's no way that people would randomly gather in one place and storm a building from the very vague instructions from a faceless leader.
Crazy, man. Next thing you know,
Sir,
dango,
the
mark,
show
dango,
is
boom, man.
show is
Dango,
very
dango,
fantastical.
Oh, jeez.
Dear God.
So as we were chatting earlier in the week, Byron, our thoughts on Captain America Light. He's seems like he's introduced as a likable enough guy, just an average Joe trying to do the task that's been bestowed upon him.
I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, so there's a bit of that broing out once he can't get Sam and Bucky to play a ball, and he's like, "Oh, stay the fuck out of my way."
So I'm guessing that he's gonna get some of that power broker super soldier serum.
Super soldier serum. It'll make him.
I'm guessing that he's gonna get roided up and go into a roid rage. Maybe beat his wife.
Do something
probably,
because if you're gonna make like this new Captain America a villain, it has to be pretty explicit. Like because you have to remove because there's still Trump supporters watching the show. So like you can't call an American serviceman a bad guy unless he is so ludicrously bad that he needs to be taken down.
Mm-hmm.
And the traditional like war crimes aspect of it, we're finding out more and more that about 50% of our population would be okay with that. Yeah. So him like randomly murdering a bunch of Iraqi civilians, I don't think would be the major evil bad that we think it would be.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that was another thing that we had sort of like speculated was that maybe his those medals that he got weren't so squeaky clean,
Yeah,
like we're gonna find out that he's actually like committed some war crimes or something. And it has to be something like that, or else like just the fact I just don't understand. I don't think that they can make him a villain, and they're gonna have to.
I know what makes universally anybody a really bad major villain is and I don't want this to happen, but all he has to do is just hurt a puppy, and automatically he's a villain.
Okay, so like
and then
I don't even think
you're on. Nobody.
And then suddenly John Wick is in this universe.
John Wick is willed into this universe. He just manifests because
the other thing is that in the comics, John Walker is this character called U.S. Agent that took over for Cap in the 1950s, I believe. There's been quite a few alternate Caps over the years, so I might be mixing him up with another one. But U.S. Agent has come and go over time, and he is super powered in the comics, I believe. But he's also just like a fucking dick. He like went through some PTSD for a while. There was a whole Civil War storyline where he like was working with the bad guys, but he didn't want to be because they like had his family or something. It was the whole thing. But he's gone back and forth in the comics over time from being a hero to an anti-hero to an explicit villain. And he constantly goes back and forth depending on who's using him. Like in the Take Back the Shield storyline, which is one of the other storylines that this show is basing itself on by Nick Spencer, the one that I've been reading, leading up to Secret Empire. John Walker shows up literally to take the shield away from Sam. Because Sam is like working with Antifa effectively. And the Marvel version of Fox News has whipped all the conservatives into a fury that Sam doesn't deserve to have the shield because he supports Antifa. And
the original Antifas had a name. They were the U.S. military. They were the allies.
Yeah, right? Oh, God.
They were Captain America.
Captain
for
America
sake.
was very into Antifa.
He was one of
he
the
was
first
Antifa. Yeah, he literally punched Hitler in the face.
Have you guys seen that? I mean, there's been thousands of memes, but it's specifically the screenshot from Last Crusade with Indy punching out a Nazi on the tank in the desert, and it's just like Antifa.
Seriously, man. So John Walker is interesting, and just from his comics experiences, I can only think that they're gonna turn him into a villain. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Did anybody else find it a little jarring that essentially they gave new Captain America a black best friend?
Oh, that was intentional.
That was clearly like, oh well, Steve Rogers had Sam, so we need a new guy. Was that supposed to stick out like a sore thumb, or was that?
Yeah, I think that's
I think it is. Yeah,
that's part of the commentary.
Especially when he brings up his call sign is
Battlestar.
Yeah, and they roll their eyes and like, stop the fucking truck. Like we're getting. Yeah, that was.
I think that's one of the major tropes that Marvel has had to overcome for a long time is they always introduce POC characters as sidekicks or
the
sidekick. So they're kind of commenting. They're
White Falcon.
They're pointing out
White Wolf.
Or he's like a White Panther, and then he's like Black Falcon.
Yeah, that was good. So they're actually commenting on their own past sins.
Yeah, very clearly.
Whatnot. Yeah, which is good. That's cool.
Well, and it seems like the writers, it seems like they're very intentionally trying to tackle race in this. I mean, it's literally part of the story, but they're doing it pretty well for the most part. It's not 100% there. I think they're like 90% there. We'll see how they stick the landing. Because like even in that scene when like Buck's from the past, and he hasn't experienced the decades of racial upheaval. He missed the 60s, and he missed 94. So like he tells him he's like, just show him your ID, as if that would help, as if that's something that's gonna work, because like Buck doesn't. He's a white dude. He's from white Queens.
Yeah. They just walk out of that intense moment and they're discussing the racial issues at hand here, the major implications, and then he starts getting harassed by the cops. That was
exactly. And,
Christ.
Is he harassing you, sir?
Who is the showrunner black? I feel like they've got to be, because like they're like picking up on things that like a white showrunner probably wouldn't, and if not, I'm guessing that the writer of this episode was probably black.
I don't know. I would have to look it up.
Created by Malcolm Spellman, directed by Kari. Well, the director is definitely a white woman, so it's.
What about the writer of the episode? I could be wrong, but it just seems like the themes are particularly on point during this episode.
The screenwriter is Malcolm Spellman, who I do not recognize.
I'm not sure.
No, he looks like he is a person of color.
Okay, that makes sense. So that he's also the showrunner then.
That's good. We'll get into the more, I guess, comic booky territory next week, or this Friday, I guess, as Zemo enters the fold.
I'm interested to see what they do with Zemo, because he's such a radically different character in the comics. Like he was a Nazi in the comics, but now he's from Sokovia, so, and was born much later than World War II. I mean, he could still be a Nazi. It's not like Eastern Europeans are particularly anti-Hitler these days.
Do you think we'll get a scene where he tries to reactivate Bucky?
Oh, absolutely.
And Bucky maybe fakes him out, like pretends to go with it, but then
and then just decks him,
deprogrammed thanks to Shuri and Wakanda. It's like, yeah, fuck you, man.
wasn't one of the trigger words homecoming? Wasn't that the whole thing? Was that
remember there's a car in there where there's like Volkswagen or something?
Yeah.
I know. Did they? That reminds me. I think in the end credits with the little montage.
Yeah, Homecoming was one, by the way.
I think
because the next movie that came out was Spider-Man: Homecoming.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Isn't there a shot of the trigger words amongst all the?
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
Paperwork? Yeah.
So do those end credits? Do they change every episode?
Or I haven't noticed it.
I think they're the same as far as I can tell. But yeah, at some point there's like a little scribbled list of random words on the wall. I'm like, I'm pretty sure those are the trigger words.
Well, and that's how I knew Isaiah Bradley was going to be in the show, because somebody saw a picture of Carl Lumley and pretty much figured out that Isaiah Bradley was going to be in the show.
Yeah. There's a prominent picture or a prominent photo of I think some woman holding a gun, like firing a gun, like right in the same montage where it shows Sam and Bucky, and there's another woman, but they don't have a name on there, and I don't know if we've been introduced.
Is she blonde?
To the yet? No, I don't think it's Sharon.
Okay, because I was gonna say it's probably Sharon then, but
look like a random brunette, or I don't know, maybe it's
her in her wig, because she's had different hair color.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, I guess that would make sense because I know she's introduced at some point. Anyway, we're a little over an hour and a half, guys. Is there any final thoughts here?
No, nothing good. Nothing but good things. I liked it. I will continue.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I liked it more than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hang in there. I'm not saying I hated it. I just am not wowed by it like I was WandaVision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I'm like intrigued, but at the same time, I don't know. It feels more of a slow burn as opposed to, just funny because that's how some people described WandaVision. To me, WandaVision, every episode from the get-go was super exciting to me.
Remember though, we were sort of at this point with WandaVision when it started. Because
I think you and Meg were, but Tony and I were sold.
I was eating up every moment of it. Like, I didn't care. But
it wasn't until like episode 4 hit with Wanda, I was like, oh shit.
Well, see that, and that's what I'm sort of thinking is that, like, I have a feeling they're going to pull some sort of crazy shit out of their hat.
Well, they have to, because we're at the halfway point with next episode. So once Zemo shows up, it's gonna get crazy. I think that's the tipping point.
Yeah. They release Zemo, and he suddenly has a Rita Repulsa voice, and he's like,
after 10,000 years, I'm free.
Time to conquer Earth.
Yeah, we should just let her.
Yeah, we've had a good run.
Let Rita do her thing.
Yeah,
were putties really that lethal?
Yeah, right. I mean, if it's Elizabeth Banks, Rita, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'd let her dominate me anyway. Yeah,
I for one welcome our Repulsa overlord.
Yeah, I'd let her putty me.
Oh jeez. All right, guys. Oh shit! You know what
they have an off button.
They
literally have a kill button on their chest.
Why do we even have that button? You know what I will never.
But not until season 2.
Yeah. You know what I will remember till my dying day is the music, the theme music for Bulk and Skull. That ridiculous little beep.
You should learn that on guitar.
I should. All right, guys, we got to get out of
All
here.
right,
Thank you
yep.
for joining. This is Tony.
This is Todd
This is Byron.
And Meg.
and Meg.
It's morphin' time.